This is the Financial Beat, helping you hit all the right notes in your financial plan. So sit back as we strike up the band. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler starts now.
Welcome to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. Ladies and gentlemen, Logan is here. He, of course, the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial, serving you in Southern California, wherever you happen to be. My name is Ron Stutz. Always a pleasure to hang out with Logan. And Logan, how you doing since we last talked?
Doing great. Off to a great start so far. And looking forward to a strong 2024. I know we've already done our New Year's resolutions and all that on the show, but I'm still looking forward to a good year so far.
I've already broken some of my resolutions.
Man, I wrote some of them down and crossed them out before I even finished writing them, right? That's how quick I broke some of mine.
There you go. That a boy. Well, we got some really important stuff to talk about here today. And first of all, let me just tell you how you can get in touch with Logan Sadler and the folks at Regary to get a conversation going. The number is 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-PLAN. Don't worry, we'll repeat that number later on in the show. Kind of an amusing story here out of the state of Pennsylvania as we get started today. There was a couple there in Pennsylvania who withdrew $4,000 out of the bank in order to pay cash for a landscaping project. They left the money on their kitchen counter, and within about 30 minutes, they walked back in the room and discovered that the cash had been eaten by Cecil, their 7-year-old golden doodle. So, the dog took the money. So the bank informed them that if they could tape together some shredded pieces of those bills, the bank could replace the bills as long as a serial number was present. Boy, what a tough task that would be. They were able to salvage a few bills that way, but then in the middle of the night, Cecil threw up another chunk of bills, which they were able to clean off and piece back together. And so far, they've been able to replace $3,500 out of that $4,000. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I would almost count that as a win, right? Because, I mean, you kind of went to basically zero there, and now you got $3,500 back. But, yeah, that's amazing. I actually have a few friends that's happened to throughout the years.
Really?
Not quite that much money, but their dog is eating, a couple $100 or whatever, and or eating a wallet and a credit card. So that is pretty funny.
Yeah, expensive dog, that's for sure. And
yeah,
we've been there. We've been through that too at our house, with various things. So, hey, if you're a dog lover, you understand what that's all about.
Yeah, when you have puppies too, especially, right? You kind of go through a whole phase where you have half-eaten shoes or a hat or whatever, right? They kind of just get into things whether you want them to or not.
Well, we haven't had any puppies in our house in a long time, but boy, I remember, that's for sure.
Yes.
Hey, a lot of people listen to this show because they're thinking about hiring an advisor, and they kind of want to get to know you a little bit better. And that's why we're so glad to offer this opportunity to folks out there. So let's talk about why you should hire an advisor in the first place. Plenty of folks out there have never considered the fact that they ought to have a financial advisor. Others know that they probably need one, but can't necessarily articulate why. Mm-hmm. So today we'll explore a few reasons to work with an advisor such as Logan Sadler. Okay.
Nice.
Maybe you tend to be a procrastinator and you just need a kick on your backside to get you going. I mean, I'm like that. I'm a terrible procrastinator, and procrastination is not your friend. Maybe that's a good reason to call Logan.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very a very big reason of why hiring an advisor is a really important tool to your plan, because a lot of the times it's nice to have someone to hold you accountable, right? And a lot of us, use a personal trainer at the gym, or use a dietitian, or go to the doctor to help. Hey, you know what? We all know we're gaining a little weight, but when they say it, you're like, I better lose a little weight, right? And so. Yeah. I think just having that extra guidance and someone there to help, like you said, kind of not help you procrastinate, and things that are on your mind or things that need to be done to help improve your financial health, making sure that those get done in a timely manner is really one of the most important jobs any advisor could really offer to the table, no matter what realm of retirement planning you're in. I think it's a big attribute that the advisor should be able to bring to the table to, like you said, kind of get you going.
Some of the people listening to the show today may realize that they need to reach out to you and they, need to talk to somebody and get some help, but they really have no idea where to start when it comes to retirement planning. You have a lot of folks come to see you who are like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of our clients typically have already accumulated assets and have money put away. And a lot of the times they go, well, that's great. I have a pile of money to use, or, maybe not a pile, but I have money to use. And what they're trying to say is, well, great, now what do I do with it, right? I'm not really sure, where do I start? How do I produce income? What tax situation do I look like moving forward? What does it look like now? And then you factor in, well, should I be invested the same way I was while I was working? Should I use mutual funds? Should I use bonds? What are these things called? Annuities, right? There's all these different types of investments and things like that you hear about around retirement planning. And a lot of the times, most people have no idea where to start and really how to build a plan, let alone build a plan that's going to last you maybe 20 or 30 years. And that's really where our specialty is with a lot of our clients, is planning for retirement. Again, that's what our slogan here is on the show, right? To get you to and through retirement. And that really is where we feel we can add a lot of value by looking at the income plan, investment plan, tax plan, a lot of those major components that are going to be a really, really big benefit for a lot of you throughout your retirement.
Logan, every time you and I sit down to do this show, I always leave with something that I learned just from talking to you for a while. And I know it's probably like that for folks who come in to see you. And, basically, you don't know what you don't know. You're going to point out a lot of things that they never even thought about.
Yeah, that's really what one of the big benefits of having an advisor is. And a lot of our clients are very smart. They understand a lot about investing or retirement planning, or they're much more savvy than you might think, right? But like you said, this is what we do for a living. So, when we start talking about, hey, why are you buying bonds in a Roth IRA and not in your traditional IRA? Well, why would I do that? Well, why would you want, your bonds don't really grow, right? So why would you want those in a tax-free account? You want your growth assets in a tax-free account, right? And they're like, whoa, okay, that little shift makes sense. Yeah. And just kind of a bunch of little nuggets that we should be able to provide. And by little in size and of conversation. However, the impact to the retirement plan could be rather substantial. And I think, like you had said, that's really what the main goal of what my job is to really help analyze what your situation is now, where you want it to be, and then helping you, a lot of these strategies or solutions and ideas that may be very beneficial, bringing those to life. And like you said, most of the time the conversations we talk about, clients have never even heard of before. If they have heard of them, they know very little information about some of the things we'll talk about, and that's the advisor's job, is to help further educate and really help explore some of these other opportunities to make sure that you're having the most efficient retirement you can.
If you just joined us, you're listening to Logan Sadler, and again, if you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation with him, here's a number, 888-823-7526, but the easy way to remember that is 888-823-7526. Plan. We're talking about why you should hire an advisor, and you don't know what you don't know, that's for sure, but you also, maybe you're really busy in your life and you don't really have the time to devote to financial planning that you should. And Logan Sadler and the folks at Regary stay on this stuff every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, just like any profession out there, right? A lot of times it takes time to dedicate to your craft to really make sure that you're perfecting it or getting as close to perfection as you can, to make sure you understand all the different intricate parts that are going to play a very, very big role for a client's retirement, or if you're trying to do it yourself, for your retirement. And I'm not really sure a lot of people understand the actual, the actual burden or the actual time it really, really does take to understand all of the different parts of retirement planning. There's a lot of people out there that are very smart and intelligent and can know a lot. However, when you're looking at all these different attributes, I really do feel you need a team to surround you as you approach your retirement years. We're talking about things like a trust attorney. You're talking about things like a CPA or tax professional, financial advisor, someone to help you with the investments, the income, the risk tolerance, all these other things, to really wrap all this together to make sure that you have a comprehensive plan. And a lot of the times people think, oh, well, I just buy stocks and bonds myself, I have a good retirement plan. Well, there might be a lot more to it than that. And I'm not sure a lot of people are really, maybe you're aware, but they're not really, ideally, that's not what they want to do in their retirement years, right? Is wake up in the morning and find out what the stock market's doing today or what estate planning law changed, right? And I think that's where having a good advisor to be part of your team is very crucial.
We're talking about why you should hire an an advisor, and here's a very important one, especially these days. You hear a lot of conflicting opinions in the media, and you don't know who to listen to. There's a lot of good information out there available to everyone. I mean, the internet, TV shows, radio shows, podcasts, etc. But there's also a lot of misinformation. And you got to remember that whoever is writing something in an article that you're reading, they probably are writing it with some kind of an agenda. And, you just don't know what's true and what's not.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many different things out there we could point to that, it's like what's the new term now, right? Clickbait or whatever, right? They want you to click on it.
Exactly.
And that's really a lot of what is out there. And a lot of it might be very, very useful, but sometimes clients will come in and go, hey, I heard about this one thing I heard this, I'll tell you a real story now. I'll transition where I actually had a client yesterday who was like, hey, you know what? I heard online if you put $1,000 in a kid's account at 0 years old, essentially, that when they turn 18, they'll have over $1 million. And I'm like, let's do the math on that, right? $1,000 invested. How many times would that have to double or triple or quadruple, right, to get to $1 million? What she probably had missed was you have to add along the way, right? And it probably wasn't at 18. It probably was at their retirement years, right? There's so many of these little things that I hear where, I mean, just off the cusp, if you're not really familiar with what returns are and what investments and things like that, you can get very, very misconstrued. And all of a sudden you wake up and you go, wait, why didn't this come true? Or why didn't this happen? Because there's so many different, things or items out there that a lot of us hear a little bit about and think it might be the golden, the golden bullet out there, right? But I think it's very important as the advisor. One of our main jobs, a lot of people think it's just, hey, I need an advisor or a stockbroker to buy or sell my stocks or my bonds or whatnot. And yeah, having investments is a very important part to your retirement plan. But a comprehensive retirement planner should be able to do a lot more by looking at your income situation, looking at your investments, your tax plan, your legacy, your estate plan, and also looking at your healthcare, long-term care needs, and really analyzing your full situation and making sure that you have a retirement plan that's not good for the next few years, but it's also good for the next few decades to make sure that you're planned and prepared for what may come down the road throughout your retirement. And that's exactly what Regari Financial does with every single client that comes on board. Is if they've saved well and put themselves in a good situation, we're able to help bring a lot of light and also a lot of really unique strategies to the table to make sure that you're having a really successful and efficient retirement.
Isn't it time you went ahead and made that phone call? It's 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-PLAN. That number is for Regari Financial, 2 offices in Emmett and Redlands. You can talk with Logan Sadler, the same person you hear on this show every week. It's free and also carries with it no obligation. Why would you not take advantage of the opportunity? It is 888-823-7526. More easily remembered by using the word plan. We all need one. 888-823-PLAN. Logan Sadler will be right back in just a moment. We're going to talk more about getting you to and through retirement right after this message.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of a plan that has some serious issues. Much better. That's the sound of a plan that was created by someone listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. So which sound is your financial plan making?
Welcome back now to more of the Financial Beat. The beat goes on, as they say. Logan Sadler is here, VP, Chief Investment Officer at Regari Financial. You can find out more about Logan and about Regari, and you can go to financialbeatradio.com, financialbeatradio.com. Check that out. But the important information I can pass along to you, probably the best information I can give you, is the phone number, 888-823-PLAN. You call that number and you can get a discovery visit with Logan Sadler. Have a conversation with him about your situation, whatever it is. Everybody's situation is different. And you can talk with him cost-free, obligation-free. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make that happen. Logan Sadler and the folks at Regari have terrific partnerships with local CPAs, attorneys, mortgage lenders, real estate agents, even Medicare specialists to help offer you well-rounded guidance in all things financial. Get a discovery meeting, no cost, 888-823-PLAN. Got a quote of the week here for you from Napoleon Hill. Money without brains is always dangerous. I'm sure you've seen that play out many times in your life.
Yeah, it's very true. I'm not really sure that a lot of people understand, the responsibility that can come with money, right? If you build it slow and steady throughout your retirement or throughout your working years and then have some money in your retirement, you kind of manage it a little bit differently, right? You're like, well, it took me 30 years to build this. Sometimes when you win money or get inheritance or things like that, you see some people do some crazy things with it, and it's not because I wouldn't say it's because they're not very smart or like that. It's because it's a big responsibility, and all of a sudden it's not as easy as you might think to do the responsible thing. And also, there's a lot to know about money that a lot of people just aren't aware of. So I definitely see some sense to this quote.
Yeah, a lot of that has to do with taxes and everything that most of us don't really think about. In a situation like that.
Well, I always joke around, like you had just said there. That's a good point. I always say, if you ask a normal person, like, hey, if you inherited $1 million, what would you do with it, right? And then they'd give you, I'd buy a car or a house or whatever. You ask a financial advisor or a tax person or whoever, if you inherited $1 million, what would you do with it? My first question would be, well, is that net or before taxes or what right?
That's right.
Because there's a lot more variations in there.
Yeah, and that's precisely one of the reasons why you see so many people who win the lottery and then 2 years later, they're bankrupt. It's just crazy.
And athletes too, right? You see a lot of them where they make lots of money throughout the years, and then a lot of them weren't aware. Like I think Shaq has a famous story where he got like $1 million deal, right, and spent like $800,000 of it, and then realized he owed $400,000 in taxes still, right? And he was like, "Oh, so I'm broke."
Yeah, really.
So obviously he dug himself out of that hole. But happens pretty often.
We talk about age a lot on this show, and we want to make sure that folks who are approaching retirement age are really familiar with all these concepts. But let's talk about some important ages here. Explain why each age that I'm going to say here represents an important landmark as it relates to retirement planning, and some of the things you should be thinking about when you hit these landmarks. What about when you turn 50? Why is that really significant, Logan?
Yeah, I'll give you two reasons there. One is the eligible for catch-up contributions. So for those of you out there that aren't aware of what that is, you can Google catch-up or give us a call. And really what you're able to do now is you're able to put more into your 401ks, IRAs, SEP IRAs, simple IRAs, right? Anything that's a retirement account, they typically allow you to do more into those plans. So, for example, like just quickly, like an IRA, you could do $6,500 a year. If you're over age 50, you could do $7,500 a year, right? Mm-hmm. So it allows you to put a little bit more away, which is a huge opportunity, especially it's in the name, right? Catch up, right? So what they're saying is, they know a lot of us might be a little bit behind or feel like we're behind, and so they allow you to put a little bit more money away. And when you talk about 401ks and 403bs and things like that, you're able to put a lot more money away. So definitely, if you're around that age group, I definitely recommend looking into that. But also, Ron, that's a very good age for a lot of people to realize, you know what, retirement's not 20 years away anymore. It might be 5 or 10 years away, right? Mm-hmm. So they start to really be more aware of what might be coming down the road.
Yeah. And we're talking about catch-up contributions. We're not talking about, anticipation. We're not talking about the old tomato ketchup song, Anticipation by Carly Simon. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Waiting on it to come out of the bottle. But seriously, when you move on to age 55, why is that a significant age?
Yeah, at 55, you typically, if you leave your job after turning 55, there's a rule called the Rule of 55, where a lot of you out there in most 401ks, you could take out money from your 401k and not be subject to the early penalty of 10%. Of course, it's still taxable if it's in a regular IRA. However, you just want to be aware of that is a lot of the options out there for some of you to really be able to utilize those retirement accounts if you do end up going out early.
Yeah, and also something to keep in mind is this only applies to the account with the job that you just left, right?
Exactly, yeah. It's got to be the most recent job that you just left with an employer plan there.
We're talking about specific ages here when it comes to retirement planning, and we talked about what happens when you turn 50, again, when you reach age 55, but 59 and a half, for some strange reason, is a very significant number. Logan, why is that?
Yeah, you're right. Why do they pick these numbers, right? 59 and a half, right? Why not 60 and a half or 60 or 59 or whatever, right?
Or just 59,
Yeah, or just
come on.
59, right? They throw the half in there, which is like, wait a minute. So, long story short, this is a very big opportunity for a lot of you are eligible now. If you have a current 401k, you can now do what's called a rollover IRA, where you can actually roll that over from a 401k plan into your own IRA, work with an advisor, do it yourself, or however you feel comfortable doing it. But it's a very, very big opportunity for a lot of you out there. If you're 59 years old and you have a work retirement plan, you want to make sure you're meeting with an advisor and looking towards some of your other opportunities, because you might have access now to a lot more investments than you did previously. Also, if you take any withdrawals from an IRA or a 401k, you are now over 59 and a half. You could now be excluded from the 10% penalty as well. So very, very big. Age 59 and a half allows for a lot of wiggle room moving forward.
I'm guessing a lot of people out there know what happens when you turn 62. Why is that such an important number?
See, and then they did that, right? Not 62 and a half, right? They did 62, right? So why? But yeah, like you said, a lot of people are aware of that age 62 is the earliest for most of you that you could start taking Social Security, right? So that's a big age for a lot of you, because if that's factoring into the plan, then that's a very useful age where if we're going to start at that time, we would be eligible to take it.
Yeah. You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. We're talking about significant ages in your life. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call if you'd like to have a conversation with Logan. No cost, no obligation. 888-823-PLAN, the number for Regari Financial. Well, when you turn 62, you're eligible to start Social Security, and some people are really anxious to start it right away, and others, don't want to, and there are lots of, reasons for both of those situations. But how about age 65, kind of traditionally the time that most folks think of when it comes to retirement? But why is that important?
Yeah, you are right there as well. I mean, a lot of people associate retirement with around that, 60 or 65 year age range. But mainly one of the big reasons for a lot of people to retire at 65 is Medicare, right? So at that age, you're now able to utilize Medicare, which makes healthcare a lot more affordable for a lot of you, and is one of those big tools that we like to utilize and make sure we understand in your retirement plan.
Okay, when you turn 65, you're then eligible for Medicare, which is so important to so many folks. How about age 66 or 67? This has always been a little bit confusing to a lot of people, including yours truly. Why is 66 or 67 important?
Yeah, no, great point. A lot of the times I'll ask clients, are you aware of what your full retirement age is? And a lot of times they go, well, yeah, 62, right? That's when I could start taking Social Security. And it's like, actually, no, your full retirement age is based off your date of birth. For a lot of you out there, it's probably 66 or 67 if you're in the 50s or 60s right now. And basically means that is your Social Security benefit is probably pretty close to the max at that point, but also you're eligible now to have some extra earned income and not be as penalized or taxed on that Social Security benefit. So if you're not familiar with what your full retirement age is and you're getting closer to that age group, definitely recommend giving us a call or looking on your Social Security statement to find out more about that, because it is a big game changer for a lot of you out there.
Here's another somewhat confusing number because it's changed. How about age 73? Why is that significant?
Yeah, so 73 is RMD aged, right? So what a lot of us are not aware of is what RMD even means. RMD is required minimum distributions. And what that means is if you have a 401k plan or an IRA or any type of qualified money, meaning it's all tax deferred essentially for most of you, and basically it's sitting in an old 401k or an IRA at age 73, if you had $1 million in that account, they make you take out, it's right between 3 and 4%, somewhere in that range, and they mandate you start taking out distributions. So every year you have a birthday after 73, the distribution percentage goes up. So why do they do that? That's because Uncle Sam is a partner with you on that 401k or IRA, right? And they say, well, we've deferred all these taxes long enough. Now let's start taking some money out of this thing and paying some taxes, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's very important for a lot of you out there. If you're younger, maybe you're in your 60s and you don't need your retirement accounts at this point, very, very important you look into some other strategies and really some tools that you could utilize to maybe help lower or get rid of your RMDs down the road. But there's a lot of strategy around RMD planning depending on what situation you fall in. But understanding RMDs, required minimum distributions, start at age 73 for most of you listening.
Yeah, and that number has not always been the same, hasn't it? Wasn't it one time 72 and a half or something?
Yeah, it's only changed. It's only changed 3 times in like 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
It used to be basically in 2019 it was 70 and a half.
Yeah,
and then in 2020, basically they passed a law that nobody even remembered unless you were in the financial world because COVID happened. Right, the whole world got turned upside down.
Yeah.
So in 2020, they passed that rule that extended it to 72. And now there's a new rule called the Secure Act 2.0 that extended it for 73 and actually up to 75 for some people.
Yeah, it's hard to know why they go with these half numbers. I mean, that confuses the situation even more. The bottom line here is the most important age to remember is your current one, no matter what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we always say, a lot of people, maybe 50 years old, 60 years old, however old you are listening to this, it's a very, very good time to really make sure you understand your situation, understand some of the, the strategies and things like that we talked about that are come up at all these important age groups, and making sure that you're making the best out of your situation to maximize your retirement potential. If you're younger, maybe you're 20 or 30, listen to the show, then great, stay on course and really making sure you're educating yourself and reaching out to the right people to get you on track. But again, those of you that are in retirement age, I always say it comes way too fast, right? Mainly most of our clients, what they always will tell us is, man, this came in the blink of an eye, right? It feels like a lifetime, and then all of a sudden it's here, and what you got saved and what you got put in place is what you got, right? So I think it's early. The earlier you start, the better, and that's exactly what our firm is here for you to reach out for that complimentary discovery meeting. If you've saved well and are getting closer to retirement and are wanting to learn more about some of the tools and strategies that Regalia Financial uses to help our clients transition to retirement, but also stay through retirement, go ahead and give us a call. I'd love to spend an hour with you. Myself, you can come into one of our Zooms or come into our office. And again, it's with myself, where we'll sit down and go over your strategies and solutions and your overall plan and see if our firm can't bring some value to your plan.
You might be thinking, gee, I knew I was going to get old. I just didn't know it was going to happen so fast. Time flies, that's for sure. Hey, call Logan Sadler's office right now, 888-823-PLAN. If you're calling during the show, you'll need to leave your name and your phone number, and you'll get a call back first part of the week from Logan's office, and set a time to have a discovery meeting, either via Zoom. If you don't want to come in, you can do it via technology, and you can be face-to-face and handle it that way, or you might want to come into one of the convenient offices, either Redlands or Hemet, totally up to you, but that visit is not going to cost you anything at all, not going to obligate you to do anything at all. No money changes hands. It's just an opportunity to sit down and share some ideas, basically get to know each other. One more time, that number is 888-823-PLAN for Logan Sadler at Regalia Financial. I'm Ron Stutz. Logan and I will be right back with more in just a moment. You're listening to The Financial Beat.
Don't you want to see sharp and not be flat in retirement? This is The Financial Beat.
We're back now with more of The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. Logan Sadler can not only be heard on this radio show, but you can also listen to his podcast, and his very important YouTube videos are there to watch. What kind of subjects do you cover on your YouTube videos, Logan?
Yeah, we have a bunch of them now uploaded on there, where basically we talk about Social Security, retirement income planning, a lot about risk and understanding your 401ks and benefits like that. And again, the nice part about it is we do it every week. So you can head over there to YouTube, type in The Financial Beat, and there's a new video uploaded there for you weekly. And hey, you know what? Maybe there's a topic out there you've always had questions on. Leave us a comment on there, and I'd be happy to get to it and do a future video on it.
Yeah, those are really well done too, Logan. Congratulations on those, and such a variety of things there. Hey, crime of the week. We want to make sure our listeners don't run afoul of the law, and so we always point out some silly federal crime that is on the books. They're legitimate, but I have no idea why some of these things are on the books. But we want to make sure that you don't end up in a sticky situation. Do you realize it's a federal crime not to keep a cat dry while the cat is being transported? We talked about dogs earlier. May as well talk about cats. But what a silly federal law.
That is pretty funny. I mean, I think a lot of people may have broken this law and not even known that, right?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Maybe you're transporting them to the vet. Does that count as transporting? But yeah, maybe you gave them. I guess you don't really bathe cats. I've never had a cat, but that's just a very funny law that I think is caught a lot of people off guard. If not, it caught me off guard.
Why in the world would that be on the federal books? I mean, I just don't get that. It's
No.
Remember, folks, it's a federal crime not to keep your cat dry while he's being moved somewhere, which is one of the silliest ones.
That'll make you scratch your head, right?
One of the silliest ones I've ever heard. Well, investor beware is something that you may hear a lot during the course of your lifetime. Explain why these advisor characteristics might be red flagged for somebody looking for help with their retirement planning, Logan. Let's say an advisor who works with people of all ages and all levels of wealth. Why would that be a red flag?
Yeah, because I think, one thing is when you go to, let's use a doctor, for example, right?
Okay.
You have a general doctor who will typically, take a look at you, maybe for a physical or whatnot. But if you have an ankle injury, they're going to send you to a specialist, right? If you have heart problems or cancer or something crazy, they're sending you to a specialist. And I think that's the way we need to look at retirement planning or investment advisors or any type of advisor, because you want to make sure when you're going to, have a problem solved or have somebody that's working with somebody in similar situations than you, I think it's very, very important because it allows you to know that you have an advisor that's really speaking from experience with people in situations that are probably just like yours, right? And I think that's super important when you look at the grand scheme of things. And, you don't want an advisor that maybe deals with clients that have $20 million and you have $50,000, right? They're probably giving a lot of different advice for different levels of clients.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you want an advisor that specializes in your age group and with your asset size. So a lot of people, if you have, if you're just getting started and looking to get something going, you probably don't want to work with an advisor that specializes in high net worth clients, right? And same thing, if you're a high net worth client, you probably don't want to work with an advisor where they specialize in getting people out of debt, right? It's not the same specialty or not really the same tools as well as the same age range. Like a lot of our clients, like we always talk about here on the show, are typically over the age 50 and they're looking to really get some knowledge and some experience for planning for retirement. And that's really where our main focus has been. And I think having an advisor that's in your right niche for what your age group is and what your demographics are and net worth and all that, I think is very, very important.
And of course, the key word there with all of that is, a specialty. I mean, you have a specialty and other folks have specialties, and an advisor who only tells you good news about your financial situation all the time is not necessarily someone you want to be with either, because you want to make sure that they're telling it like it is.
Yeah, very well put. I think we all like good news. However, we know we want the good news or the bad news, right? There's always good and bad news in some cases.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing I had to learn in my career early on was, it is your job to tell clients the bad news, right? And if we see any types of concerns or obstacles that might come up or any faults to the plan, we need to make sure we address them. And I've definitely found that earlier we address some of these problems, the better off, right? The client is, because we don't want to let things kind of skate and go. And you know what? Yeah, you need $100,000 a year in your retirement when you're age 60. You're going to be just fine, right? And then all of a sudden, age 60 comes, and yeah, by the way, we're not going to be able to get anywhere close to that. But we tried, right? It's like, no, you want to know the things ahead of time, and making sure that you're having an advisor that's able to really lay the groundwork and set expectations, but also give you the good and bad of maybe every decision or every type of event we might be looking at in your plan.
Logan, one of the best things I think about you is just having a conversation with you. Is the fact that you do a really good job of explaining things and talking in terms that most of us laymen can understand. And for that reason, I think you're a really good educator as well, which is kind of part of your job. But there are some advisors out there who use a lot of technical jargon, long words that are only familiar to people in the business that you might not understand when they're talking about your financial situation, and that's not somebody you want either.
Yeah, you know what I found is I think a lot of people try to sound really, really smart and use a lot of big words, or maybe that's just we're kind of like blinded in the eyes of what normal people understand, right?
Yeah.
And the advisor's job is really just to show you the value we could bring to the table and not try to confuse you by using, technical jargon of Sharpe ratio, standard deviation, beta, alpha, Roth conversion, tax strategy, mitigation, right? You don't want to use all these crazy words where some clients want to know the big stuff and want to know the intricate stuff, and some clients just want to be explained in a way that they're going to understand, right? Because just like when I go see the doctor, they'll say something and I'm like, whoa, stop for a second. That doesn't sound good. What is that, right? And they're like, oh, you just have a fever. Oh, okay, right. You want to know it in simple matters, and making sure you understand it, I think, is very important. And I think one of the big things in finding an advisor who's the right fit is, yes, you want to make sure they handle clients that are like you. You want to make sure that they specialize in the time frame that you're in, maybe net worth and all that, similar size range is very important, but also one you can relate with and one that you can understand, I think, is very important that I would add to the list there. And that's really what we strive to do, is explain things to where clients will understand. And trust me, if you want to get in the weeds and dive deeper and use some good terminology, I'll be right there with you and I'm all about it. But I think really the most important thing is to make sure that you as the client understands the overall strategies and tools and rules and all the stuff that we're putting into play with your retirement plan.
If you're talking with an advisor, or maybe you have an advisor who seems to have a really high level of certainty, about what's going to happen in the market in the immediate future, that can be a really a big sign of trouble as well. If your advisor is telling you, I guarantee you that, the market is going to do this in the future, that person is not really telling you the truth, because it's really hard to know those things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It never ceases to amaze me I logged online the other day, and I'm not going to throw the firm under the bus, but I logged online. One of the big investment firms out there was like, this year predicting 2024, there's 75% chance of a recession, right? Oh, and it's like, what does that mean? It's 75% chance, right? They're not even saying it's going to happen. They're saying it could. And I'm saying, well, yeah, it could happen at any point, right? That's one thing where there's a lot of fundamental, leading and lagging indicators we could look at. However, I think it's very important when you're looking at retirement and looking at investing to understand your overall plan, your overall goals, and your overall risk level, and then put together a plan that's in place to help implement all of those things we're going to need the plan and the portfolio to do, and not get caught with an advisor or somebody trying to play these guessing games of, hey, I think this quarter is going to be a good quarter. Let's do this or let's do that. Really, it's very short term, and also it's a very inefficient way to invest, especially when you look long term. And there's a lot of research out there that shows, the longer you could stay invested in whatever asset classes you're in, probably in most cases is better off than not. And so I think it's more about understanding your risk, building a plan, and being able to stick to it.
Here on the Financial Beat, you listen all the time. You know that Logan does most of the talking. That's the way it's supposed to be, because nobody wants to hear what I have to say. This show is designed to have Logan talk about things. And, on the other hand, if you're talking with an advisor, if you're sitting in his or her office and they spend more time talking than listening, that is not a good thing. Because if you come in and have a conversation with Logan, he's going to do most of the listening in that situation, give you an opportunity to talk, because he wants to get to know you, what your hopes and desires are, and what your needs are.
Yeah, actually, I'll disagree with you there for a second, Ron. You do add a lot of value to the show here, and I learn a lot from you, especially when we're talking about musical facts and things like that. But, when I'm talking in general here, as far as when you talk about advisor and their conversations, it's not to tell you how great I am or how great our firm is or any of that. Really, what we start off our meetings is telling you, maybe a 5 to 10 minute overview of what our firm does, especially just familiarizing you with who we are, making sure you've checked out the website, tell you a little bit about my financial background and some of the clients that we help and really where our specialty is. It takes about 5 or 10 minutes, and that's if you want to know all that stuff. And then guess what? The rest of it is me asking you questions, trying to get an understanding of what it is you're trying to do. I can't put together a plan that's built for you if I don't know you, right? And so I think it's very important. The conversation should be very fluent and back and forth, and making sure that you feel like you're understood and you feel like the advisor is taking the time to understand you. And that is really where our specialty is making sure that we really take the time to understand the families and the people that we're serving, to make sure that we're building out a plan that's customized to them and focusing on them and not the advisor.
Yeah. And sometimes it's a situation where, there are some really good advisors out there. You're not the only one. But, there's some advisors who spend a lot of time talking just to kind of hear themselves talk and to kind of impress people, that kind of thing with all their knowledge. That's not a good situation either. Logan, I'm going to give out that very important phone number in just a second here for folks to come and visit with you or have a visit with you on Zoom or whatever the case may be. Why is it so important right now? Here we are near the beginning of another year. Why is it so important now for folks to reach out?
Yeah, so many of you that have reached out lately have been, really approaching retirement rather fast, right? You guys, you know what? I'm retiring next year. I'm retiring at the end of this year. I'm retiring in 5 years. Those are shorter time frames that we really want to get a lot of tools and strategies implemented and really making sure we have the time to do it effectively to make sure we're laying the groundwork for you to have a very clear understanding of what your retirement upcoming is going to look like. And, allows us to really build those relationships and get a lot of these, a lot of the ground laid for what we're trying to accomplish in your retirement plan. And a lot of that takes time, right? And I think that's very important for those of you that are approaching retirement or maybe just started. It's very important to give us a call or give an advisor a call and making sure that you understand the value that we could bring to the table, right? And I think one of the things we offer most that separates us from some of these other firms out there is looking at things very comprehensively, right? Looking at all of the pieces of the puzzle to your retirement plan and really making sure we're able to utilize these tools and strategies to help you have a more efficient retirement and also, more importantly, have your ideal retirement.
888-823-7526. Easy way to remember that is by using the word plan, and we've talked so many times about how it's so important to have a plan. 888-823-PLAN. It really is like putting together the pieces of a puzzle. There's so many pieces, so many strategies involved, so much knowledge that you need in order to do this. If you're trying to do it yourself, presumably, that is the first time you've tried to put together a plan for retirement. But remember that Logan Sadler and the folks at Regary have done it many, many, many times. And it's something that they do all the time. 888-823-PLAN. Reach out today. You can get a conversation with Logan either via Zoom or maybe in one of the convenient offices, whatever you choose, but it's not going to cost you anything and not going to carry with it any kind of obligation at all. One more time, the number is 888-823-PLAN. You're listening to the Financial Beat. I'm Ron Stutz along with Logan Sadler. There's more on the way. Stay with us.
You're listening to The Financial Beat, the show that makes sure your financial plan has the perfect pitch.
Hey, welcome back to The Financial Beat. Ron Stutz here along with Logan Sadler, VP Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial. And Logan, before I give out this phone number here, let me remind folks that you have podcasts out there that are available to everybody who wants to listen, maybe to old shows, or maybe they even tuned into this one in the middle, and they'd like to hear what we talked about in the beginning of the show. How do folks get your podcasts, and why is it so important to know that?
Yeah, you can head over to the podcast platform, whether that's on Apple Music, Amazon, Spotify, wherever it might be you download podcasts. Head over there, type in The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. And you can also check out the podcast on YouTube. There's also videos there, but also the podcast is uploaded on there as well. And the nice part about it is that these are longer shows, and so sometimes you can't always catch it in the car in the morning, or you can't always catch it in the afternoon. And so it's important you can head over there, check it out, and download it at your convenience to catch out maybe some of the things that you may have missed on what may be important in your retirement.
Yeah, the Financial Beat podcasts are out there. Go get them, because a lot of important stuff that we've talked about over a long period of time now. I don't know how many shows we've done together, Logan, but it's been quite a while we've been doing these. So, hey, a lot of good stuff in there. Hey, let me ask you this question. Whatever you do for a living, whether you're a financial advisor or a radio announcer or a firefighter or whatever you do you have a mentor? A mentor, some folks say. Is there a mentor in your life that you learned a lot from and you've always looked up to?
Yeah, I would say there's a few different ones. Personally, I definitely say both of my parents were very big in our family household as far as mentors. Were always there to kind of guide us and point us in the direction, which I think is very important, whether it's your parents or in-laws or grandparents or friends or whoever it might be. I think that's important, especially when you're young. And then also when I got into the business, one of my mentors, my main mentor, I would say, would be Hugh Regary, who is the founder of the firm.
Yeah.
Even at a younger age, took me under his wing and really helped kind of explain the ins and outs of really how to see the vision of what a financial advisor should be, and really help guide me into really shaping who I am overall, not just as an advisor but also as a person. And I think that is it's very important, no matter what industry I think you're in, to have somebody that you could lean on and ask those questions to. And I think those were the ones that come to mind when I talk about personally or professionally.
I knew you were going to say Hugh Regary for sure, and certainly your parents, because we've talked about that before.
Yep.
But remember, Regary Financial is the name of the business, and Logan Sadler is the person that you can talk to if you make that phone call, 888-823-PLAN, 888-823-7526. But remember it this way, 888-823-PLAN. Hey, let's go to the mailbag or request line, whatever you want to call it, because these questions come in a variety of ways. And we have a question today, Logan, from Jerry in French Valley. And Jerry says, I'm selling a beach house that I've owned for 20 years, and I'm making a fairly handsome profit. My understanding is that I can use that money to buy a new investment property and avoid the taxes from the sale. Is that the best thing to do, or should I just take the tax hit and invest the funds in the market?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. And I think it would really come down to a deeper conversation as far as what the overall goal is when I look at that, Jerry. But, an example, yes, you can do what is called a 1031 exchange, and basically you could, exchange property for property. There's some other rules and contingencies in there as far as, it's got to be equal or greater value and things like that. But we can loop in a qualified tax professional if that's the way we do want to go, to make sure everything's going correctly. The one thing I would ask you is, do you want to be a landlord, right? Do you want to own another property? Some people, especially as they get into retirement years or closer to retirement years, they maybe don't want to own property anymore, or don't want the headache of it. And not that it's not a great investment, because it definitely is. However, you might be at a point where you're saying, you know what, I don't want to manage any properties. I don't want to have to deal with anything. Maybe I will sell it, pay the gains, and I could put it, invest it in the market or any types of other investments. Maybe that might be a little bit less work. That may be an option. But I think it really comes down to, what is your goal, right? You definitely, if you do the other option we had talked about, you're going to have to look at the overall tax situation and make sure it makes sense to pay that much in taxes to really to have lesser work, right, and less peace of mind. But I definitely think it's always worth the conversation. And sometimes that is the answer, but also sometimes it says, you know what, I like property, I want to stay in property. And tax-wise, it may make sense to do that as well. So I think it really depends on what your overall goal is. And that's something we talk through with a lot of our clients on what might be the best strategy to use. And then also plugging them in, if they don't already have one, plugging them in with a qualified tax professional that we would recommend to help run some numbers and go over their overall situation from that perspective.
Jerry, thank you very much for the question. Again, that number to contact Logan Sadler at Regary is 888-823-PLAN. Wish you the best, and hope you'll get in touch. Next question here is from Julia in West Covina. And Julia says, I'm still working, but I'll be turning 59 and a half later this year. Well, there's another one of those half numbers.
There's that numbers.
Yeah. She says, so I could withdraw money from my RIA if I want to, because I'm turning 59 and a half. Would it be a good idea to do this and fix up some things around the house that I've been putting off for a while?
Yeah, that's a great question, Julia. So this one's easier for me to answer. The answer is probably not, right? And what I would say is the main reason why is, what does your overall income look like in retirement? What assets do you have? Because if you start spending your retirement money, what's going to get you through retirement, right? And so I think it's important to look at your overall picture and understand, that just because you can now touch the piggy bank doesn't mean you do it, right? It's got to make sense. And more often than not, a lot of people aren't aware of the tax situation. So if you pull, 20 grand from the IRA, that's taxed probably at ordinary income if it's in traditional IRA accounts. So now we got to factor in, you might have to pull more than that to net 20, right? Or pay the taxes at the end of the year. Yeah. So I think it's super important when you're looking at, your now newly access to your retirement accounts. It could be very dangerous, because it doesn't mean you just start pulling from the piggy bank. It's got to make sense. And you also want to make sure, if you have a retirement plan, you would know if I pulled some money out of here, would it hurt me or would it not, right? And I think that's what's important about building that financial plan we talk so much about, especially as you're approaching retirement. You want to make sure by touching the piggy bank now isn't going to hurt you later.
Okay, Julia, again, thank you so much for the question. Call Logan's office and arrange a conversation about all of this, and you'll be glad you did. Next question here is from Charles in Fallbrook. And Charles says, ever since my kids grew up and I no longer have the child tax credit, it seems that I usually owe $3,000 to $4,000 when I file my taxes every year. Is that a problem as long as I have the money to pay it, or should I be doing something different?
Yeah, I would definitely want to loop in the CPA on this one, but just kind of my input on this. I mean, sometimes obviously taxes have been a huge issue just because a lot of people are making more money than, ever before, as well as, like you said, the kids are out of the house, so you lose a lot of these deductions or write-offs that you have. And it's something where I would say let's look at your paycheck, see what you're currently withholding for state and federal, because you might be able to rework that a little bit to where maybe you're withholding a little bit more, so you get a little bit closer to break even. Again, depending on what your income and things of that sort are, that might not be bad. Again, just depends on where, like I said, if you're a super high income earner and you're only owing $3,000 or $4,000, it's not too bad. But if you're a lower income earner and you're getting that amount, having to owe that amount, might be some adjustments we could do on the withholdings. But definitely, I would say give us a call. We could look at that and kind of analyze that. And if we needed to, we could pull in a ZPA to verify that we're withholding the correct amount. But not too bad of a situation, but still, it's something where if you could shed the tax bill a little bit and maybe withhold ahead of time, it might be a better way to go.
Barbara is in Orange County, and she's asking, do you have a good rule of thumb, Logan, for how much money I should have in cash at all times?
Yeah, that's always a great question because it is one that sometimes needs multiple repeating because it happens to a lot of people out there. But I have a lot of clients that when we're talking about it, to answer it directly, Barbara, let's say I'm just, again, not giving you specific advice, just talking through a potential situation where, let's say your current expenses with your car payment, all your expenses included, is around $5,000 a month, right? So the 6-month rule would mean that you need around $30,000 plus or so into a savings account that'd be an emergency fund. And again, I have some clients where it's much more than that. Some of them, they need higher because maybe they have rental properties that they might have major expenses come up. So they might need an extra $20,000, $30,000 or $40,000 in a liquid savings because they might need to utilize it for that. Or maybe they have an upcoming purchase coming. They know they're going to be buying a big car or another house or something like that. So you might need excess available. But most of the time I find that most people, they typically, that 6-month rule is typically a pretty good fit. And typically much more than that. Sometimes it could just weigh you down. Like I said, I had a client a few months ago where she had, $600,000 or $500,000 invested for retirement, stuff like that, but she had $400,000 in cash, right? So that was an extreme amount to where she had almost as much money sitting on the sidelines. So it's just important to, I would say, give us a call. Let's sit down and we can kind of go over what your situation looks like and try to help guide you best we can and go through all the numbers based off your situation.
One more question today, Logan. It's from Michael in Fontana. And Michael says, Logan, I'm 62 years old. Our company recently hired a completely new leadership team, and I don't know if the new regime will want to keep my position as part of the company or not. If they want to eliminate my position, my hunch is that they'll come to me to try and negotiate an exit plan. If that happens, what kinds of things should I prioritize in my negotiation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really want to know more about, a lot of it would be based off what your current income is, how much do you currently make, maybe your benefit package and things like that you have there. But that's a lot of what I would kind of forecast into that negotiation because, if you could get some type of healthcare severance, right, or maybe a lump sum of wages or things like that, those are some of the things that I would think of right off bat. Because, at 62, we now got to carry ourselves till 65 on health insurance, right? So that's one of those things where you want to look at, is there any type of benefit exit that you could strategize in there that would be beneficial to you to maybe pull the plug earlier and enjoy retirement, right? And I think also going over your overall plan currently for your retirement would be very important to see what assets you have and see if, what type of benefit package or what type of severance is this going to need to look like to really even make it worth it, right? So I definitely would love to, I talk through this a lot with clients, and I'd love to talk through it with you and help kind of put this in writing and put this come to fruition if it does happen, because there's a lot of little intricate parts I think you should be looking at, years of pay, years of service, benefits, all those types of things I think should kind of be calculated into what you might be able to be willing to accept.
Great questions today from Michael and Julia and Jerry. And Logan, for folks out there listening who may have a question that they would like to send into the show and perhaps get an answer for here on the program, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, you could go over to the YouTube channel and leave a comment on there. That's a great way to do it, where we'll know we could answer it on there, but also do a video on it. Also email into thefinancialbeatradio.com. You can go on there, and there's also a link on there for you to drop questions and things like that. And we're more than happy to get to those and answer those and even put them on the show.
If you'd like to have a conversation with Logan, call this number, 888-823-PLAN. If you haven't written this down yet, please do it right now, 888-823-7526. Put it in your phone if you need to do that, 888-823-PLAN. Actually, the best way to handle the situation is go ahead and call the number right now. And when you do, leave a message with your name and phone number, and you will get a call back as soon as possible. And then you can set a time to have your conversation with Logan Sadler that is cost-free and obligation-free. 888-823-PLAN. Logan Sadler is the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Regary Financial. And when you do arrange that get-together, you're going to be talking to Logan Sadler. He's not going to put you off on anybody else. But keep in mind, he has a great team of folks there at Regary Financial who will help get you to and through retirement. But you have to reach out, 888-823-PLAN. I'm Ron Stutz along with Logan Sadler. And Logan, it's been my pleasure to hang out with you for a while today, as always.
Yeah, as you know, Ron, one of my favorite times is sitting down, spending an hour with you here on the show and talking about some good old retirement education. And I look forward to being back here again next week. And I want to say thank you again to each of the listeners out there, to everyone that's called in and came on board with the firm. We really appreciate the support. And again, look forward to seeing you back here again next week.
Yeah, join us again for the next edition of The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler.
Regary Financial and Insurance Services, Inc. and BD Financial Group, Inc. are separate and independent entities. The information provided in this presentation is presented for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, tax, or legal advice, nor does it constitute an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any securities.